Assalamu alaikum. Hi economists. I am Mohammed Dashan from Egypt. I have the privilege of introducing an idea that has been brewing in my mind. It is a financial idea born out of my deep desire for positive change in our economy. Please allow me to share with you the Salesism economics. We dream of an economy that doesn't solve its problem by simply printing more money, but spreads the existing quantity of money through all business and individuals, enabling the production, consumption, and the investment that drive economic growth. I called my proposed monetary system Salesism economics because it uses cost accounting to give customer cashback to maintain aggregate demand and reform both monetary and fiscal policy. At its core, Salesism aims to stimulate aggregate demand on a continuous basis and reduce the potential for economic crisis. The sum of all fears is a metaphor. In economics, the sum of all fears is the ineffective and unfair circulation of money among all. We see the money is accumulated in the hands of the wealthy while others live in poverty. Printing more paper money without addressing the underlying structural issues can deter purchasing power and increase poverty because the new paper's money will pile up in the wealthy pocket as usual, and the gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen. That distorted circulation of money is a bad root that causes poverty and prevents societies from enjoying welfare. It is not a matter of how many papers of money exist, but how they circulate to benefit all people, because the economy could work with only one monetary unit. For example, only $1, because the monetary unit has the ability to be divided into an infinite number of small units, and the prices are adjusted accordingly. Thus, circulation and distribution are matter of worth, not the quantity of money. What sets Salesism idea apart is using the micro-analysis of business to control the macro-analysis of both of physical and monetary policy. I firmly believe that Salesism could create opportunities that were not previously imaginable and make a profound difference in our world. Before going to the details of Salesism economics, let us highlight malicious financial practice that I call Fay economics. Fay is a mathematical term referring to an empty space or nothing important here in this area. Fay economics refer to all practices that create or circulate money within the economy and without a matching increase in a productive value, whether industrial, agriculture, or commercial. Fay economics takes several forms, but it could mainly grouped into first type of Fay economics is gambling and speculation. Imagine the members of a society spending their time and effort on financial games that lead to the transfer of money from pocket to pocket without any valuable work. This society will not produce real economic production because they are busy in their financial games. Even if these gambling and speculation operations are legal in many societies, these useless financial games are Fay from an economic point of view. Speculation creates bubbles in the form of overpriced assets, such as real estate, stocks, or even commodities. Overpricing means the prices are unreasonable and unsustainable. These bubbles eventually burst, causing financial crisis and economic downturns. In addition, the speculation creates an even distribution of wealth in favor of the speculators. The speculation raises ethical concern because profit, whatever the means, becomes a goal, and the investment in productive activities will be reduced because the focus shifts to the games and not to sustainable growth. Speculation also includes some forex operations that are unnecessary because the traders don't have current debt to repay in a foreign currency. Such unnecessary forex operations raise the foreign currency price and devalue the local currency, which consequently raise the cost of production and increase inflation. There is no economic value created by transferring one currency to another. Therefore, forex is not a productive process. Its volume is not counted in GDP statistics. Unnecessary forex operation direct energy toward creating monetary assets and away from producing useful goods and services. Because of the inefficiency of the output due to macroeconomic problems and because of the bad governance in the country, the citizens perform forex operations in another country currency for both speculation and storage of value purposes. Buying a foreign currency is the easiest kind of property because holding money doesn't require maintenance, guarding, or any taxes compared to holding other types of assets like precious metals, inventories, or real estate. Because of the forex fluctuations, the cost of production will be negatively affected and sales will decline because of the competition from cheaper products from other countries. Lower interest rates stimulate investment only if this investment contribute to real output. It means if these investments don't contribute to speculative activities. Otherwise, inflation increases and puts upward pressure on nominal interest rate to increase more and more, but in vain. Salesism strategy to deal with this 5 practice of speculation is to establish sound economic policies that prioritize and support sustainable growth and create an atmosphere of trust and confidence that encourage investors to invest in their own real economy and make it uneconomically to hoard money in another country's currency. Second type of the 5 economic practice is the irresponsible money supply. Inflation is a general rise in prices across the economy. Inflation erodes the purchasing power of money. It can disrupt economic stability and causes social unrest and security issues. By analogy with the idea that sound money are not transferred from one party to another party without economic production in return, increasing the money supply in the government treasury without real economic production is also a form of wrong or 5 economic practice. Irresponsible money supply refers to a situation where an excessive money supply leads to negative consequences, with inflation at the top of the list. Additionally, irresponsible money supply can lead to financial bubbles, which are overpriced assets because there is plenty of money to speculate in these assets. As aforementioned, these bubbles eventually burst, which definitely end in a financial crisis. Not only, but also, irresponsible money supply leads to currency devaluation and a loss of confidence in the currency. The result is a reluctance to enter in direct investment in this economy. Moreover, to make matters worse, who venture to enter this economy are the hot money investors. These are the carry trade investors. This type of investors only search for a higher interest rate without entering into a direct long-term investment. And upon their sudden exit, they cause a debt crisis and more deterioration to the national currency. Salesism strategy to deal with this 5 practice of irresponsible money supply is to design a monetary system where central bank shouldn't find themselves in a position where the national current account is in deficit and therefore resort to increasing the money supply to monetize the deficit by printing more paper money without increasing the economy output. Salesism suggests a monetary system that provides the government with a compelling argument to stop manipulating the money supply by printing more money. That is how inflation hits us. Third type of 5 practices are digital currency. Digital currencies are kinds of money that don't add value to the economy in an industrial, agriculture, or trading form. The idea behind digital currencies is to create a kind of money that grows steadily, like gold, but whose control is out of the government hand. Taking Bitcoin as an obvious case, as the currency with the highest number of transactions. Strangely enough, Bitcoin made the identical error for which it was invented to be a remedy. How is that? As encrypted data, Bitcoin is created by who has the computing power to create it without any kind of production. This computer owner who seeks Bitcoin is called the miner. He joins a worldwide competition held every nearly 10 minutes, and the computer with the fastest computing power earns Bitcoin units as a reward. While these massive computers compete, both the winners and the losers pollute the environment as much as they can. Currently, we saw programmers create millions of serialized digital units, spread part of these codes for circulation, and hold the rest in their hand. When the circulated units have value in the forex market, the rest of the units in their hand become wealth, and they become wealthy from nothing. Although the current cryptocurrencies are 5 practices, but thanks to Satoshi Nakamoto, the founder of Bitcoin. Whether he failed or succeeded, but really thanks for his attempt to invent a new monetary system. But neither Bitcoin nor other digital currencies are the sound money the world expects. Salesism strategy to deal with this 5 practice of digital currencies is to design a monetary system where the money is gained and circulate through real production and hard work, not via computer games that damage our environment. The fourth kind of Fay practice are share repurchase. Stock buyback or share repurchase occur when a company repurchases its own shares from the open market, effectively reducing the number of outstanding shares available to the public. Share buybacks can serve some legitimate purposes, but a hidden reason for share repurchase is to inflate the earning per share of the stock. That is to raise the rewards and compensation of the company executives, whose compensation depends on the stock price metrics without real improvement in its business fundamentals, which could lead to a fake perception of improved financial performance of the company. The real improvement is such as innovation, expanding into new markets, investing in research and development, or other initiatives that drive sustainable growth rather than utilizing some financial techniques to inflate short-term metrics. Salesism strategy to deal with this Fay practice of share repurchase is that bid sales don't support such practice, as we will see later. The fifth kind of Fay practice is the harmful products. Harmful products refer to goods or substances that have the potential to cause negative effect on people's health or the environment. Examples are tobacco products, alcohol, illicit drugs, hazardous material if not used or handled properly, unsafe pharmaceuticals if used without proper medical supervision, unsafe consumer products that may cause injuries or health issues. Salesism strategy to deal with this Fay practice of harmful products is to ban and monitor such suspicious transactions. Salesism economics has four main pillars. First pillar is bid sales mechanism. When the customer purchases, his transaction will unlock a fascinating process behind the scene. The seller diligently segments his customer based on their profitability, using the activity-based costing approach to identify the customer who contributed the most to his success. These customers are rewarded with bid sales, which is the percentage of their money that was previously spent on purchases, and that percentage of their purchases is returned to them as a marketing gift from the seller. Bid sales is a cashback. Bid sales appear on the customer screen, ready to be spent on his next purchase. So, bid sales are fiat money but become digital forms. Bid sales mechanism is a way to circulate the money among society because bid sales are not limited to being spent with the seller from which they originated. They could be used with any merchant who is a member of the bid sales network. Therefore, customers have the freedom to explore a multitude of options and make purchases from many sellers. The most important feature is that bid sales cannot be exchanged for fiat money again. Once they are created, they remain forever in circulation in their digital form. Because bid sales give cashback to customers based on their profitability, there will be US dollar bid sales, Euro bid sales, EGB bid sales, etc. Customers will become motivated to make repeated purchases, knowing that their loyalty will be recognized and rewarded. Sellers, on the other hand, are inspired to provide exceptional products as their success depends on the satisfaction of their customers. Here, bid sales become testament to the power of the relationship between the seller and his customers within a thriving ecosystem of commerce. Once granted, bid sales become current liabilities on the seller account books in favor of the bid sales network. When a seller records bid sales in his current liabilities, he becomes committed to paying these funds to another seller for the customer next purchase. Before the customer sees his earned bid sales on his screen, each bid sales amount will be deducted upfront, with 20% going to a special fund known as the BOSIX fund. Second pillar is the BOSIX fund. Proof of customer experience. BOSIX is a proof of work or a daily competition to select top sellers who excel in providing exceptional customer service. The BOSIX competition takes place at the end of each working day, which is called close of business, COB. At each COB, each seller posts his cost and sales details to the bid sales network. BOSIX winners are awarded with bid sales collected in the BOSIX fund on that day. Third pillar, bid sales absorption in favor of bio fund. What if the bid sales haven't been circulated? What if the customer doesn't spend his bid sales and it remains stagnant instead of flowing freely through the economy? Just like blood, money needs to move and circulate to ensure a healthy and vibrant economic system. To address this concern, bid sales mechanism has a built-in feature to encourage circulation. That is, on a daily basis, each bid sales currency is amortized at a 2.5% annual rate. This deduction is channeled into a special fund known as the bio fund. Bio are the people who are poor and unable to work. Bio funds serve a noble purpose. It stands as support for those who are less fortunate. This fund serves as a vehicle for charity, ensuring that those in need receive assistance from the wealthier members of the society. Fourth pillar, reform the taxation system. Of course, income tax is based on the net income as the taxable amount, but in the realm of Salesism, a significant amendment is that the tax rate will be based on the activity-based costing profit from customers, which equals the sales revenue minus the activity-based costing allocated to the customers. Now, let's talk about trickle-down effect. Imagine this. In a market where there are several sellers of various segments of products, each seller has a different sales volume than the other. There is a seller who enjoys high sales. There is another who has moderate sales. There is another who has a low sales level. And there are sellers who suffer from an unsystematic recession in their products or niche markets. In Salesism, any seller who is a member of the bid sales network has the ability to accept bid sales as a form of payment. That opens up new opportunities for sellers, including those who struggle with poor sales. In this vibrant ecosystem, even sellers who are facing challenges have a lifeline. They could now offer their products for sale on bid sales. This is a transformative trickle-down effect, where money flows from the sellers who sold to those who didn't. Trickle-down effect can be seen from the synergy that is spreading throughout the economy. First, when consumers recognize the importance of not hoarding their bid sales, they will utilize them for repurchasing. And it is unnecessary to repurchase from the same seller. So the sellers who had high sales support the sellers who didn't. Second, bid sales holders contribute 20% of their bid sales to the POSIX fund. This fund aims to support entrepreneurial success. Third, bid sales are amortized on a daily basis in favor of bio people. By all this, that is how bid sales achieve the trickle-down effect, shaping a healthier economy for all. Bid sales is a shift in mindset. A remarkable transformation occurs in society, where people embrace the idea that their action could positively affect the lives of others and understand that true prosperity can only be achieved when no one is left behind. Let's talk about the effect on monetary policy. Normally, consumers will spend their bid sales before their fiat money. Over time, as the circulation of bid sales increase, so do bank deposits of cash. This increase in banking deposits, which leads to a decrease in interest rate, creates a favorable environment for investment and employment. In brief, the aforementioned pillars, which will be discussed in details in the next videos, from the Salesism ecosystem, which has a microeconomic focus and positions customer service excellence at the center of decision making. Finally, to summarize the idea of Salesism, it is a monetary system where four pillars are in place. First, bid sales are granted cashback to the customer based on activity-based costing. Second, bid sales are deducted with 20% upfront going to the POSIX fund. Third, bid sales are amortized on a daily basis at a 2.5 annual rate in favor of the bio fund. Fourth, the tax rate is based on the activity-based costing profit from customers, which equals the sales revenues minus activity-based costing allocated to the customers. Bid sales appreciate the value of hard work as the primary determinant of wealth. Bid sales aim to develop a brand new chapter in financial thought. In the next videos, we will unpack the whole story and go deeper into each part of the Salesism economy. Thank you for watching this introduction. I invite you to join me on this transformative journey to explore the possibilities of Salesism economics. Keep up with me in the next videos.